Today's psalm from the Songs of Ascents is Psalm 126. These were songs that were composed for singing over the weeks and days on the journey up to Jerusalem, and to sing during the days of feasting and celebration in Jerusalem. This is the first psalm in the third group of three, and so as in the others, he's in a distressing situation and he's singing about it. And so this is a song for us to sing in times of distress, and particularly in times when we look back and we remember that God blessed us in the past and perhaps surprised us with answers to prayer that came so clearly from his hand and were so significant for us. But now we're in a time when he seems to have abandoned us. That period of favor seems to have passed, and we're feeling a bit desolate and hopeless, and wondering, has he really abandoned us? In this psalm, God had answered their prayer in the past. He transformed a desperate, hopeless situation, and he'd done it unexpectedly. It was like a dream that had come true. It had seemed so impossible that this could come about. And the people hadn't made it happen. No human agency had made it happen. God had done this. And the one enthroned in heaven, in Zion, had stretched out his hand and dramatically changed the situation. And they were just filled with joy, filled with laughter, perhaps tears of joy and tears of laughter, which will be significant when we come to the end of the psalm. And in their current situation, as they recalled what God had done, they had a fresh taste of that joy in their hearts and minds. But the situation was very different. They were in a very distressing situation, and it seemed that Yahweh had withdrawn his blessing from them. That's the language that's used here in the psalm. That's if he'd banished them from his favor. But again, in the situation, meditating on God's Torah, drawing from the streams of water, it helped them restore that top-down thinking that then leads to prayer, that Yahweh would do again what he had done before. Lord, restore our fortunes again. Let it be like the sudden flash floods in the desert that just come so suddenly and instantly transform the desert into rivers of water. Come like that. But while they were praying for his intervention, they weren't inactive and passive. They were also just engaged in that constant discipline of prayer that was so costly and sacrificial, really. The time of praying and waiting for his intervention was also a time for sowing in faith, in discipline, waiting on God, in prayer, feeding by the streams of water, meditating on his word, delighting in his word, and not giving up. And there's a repeated image at the end of the psalm about sowing in tears, going out to sow weeping, and then reaping in the harvest. And by repeating it, the Hebrew poet is really emphasizing how important this is. That seed's precious, and that's why they're weeping. It almost seems as if they're taking a risk by putting what seed they have into ground. That's what it can be like when we're waiting for God to intervene, when we're praying and the situation seems to get more and more and more desperate. But we're not passive. We are actively praying and sowing our faith in his word and in his promises. This is what Calvin says. Those who were sustained by the promise of God cherished in their hearts the hope of a harvest of answered prayer. Although in a time of extreme scarcity, they seemed to take a risk by casting their seed into the ground. In order then that joy may follow our present sorrow, let us learn to apply our minds to the contemplation of the result which God promises. Thus we shall experience that all true believers have a common interest in the prophecy in this psalm, that God will not only wipe away tears from their eyes, but he will also diffuse inconceivable joy through their hearts. God is able to do that. He's able to turn our sorrow into joy overnight, but it's the result of patient, persistent prayer, drawing from those streams of water and meditating on his word, top-down thinking. Singing this psalm is one way of strengthening ourselves and brothers and sisters with hope and faith that God will do this for us, and he will bring forth a fruitful harvest from our sacrificial and costly prayer. When Zion's fortunes were restored, we thought we'd had a dream. We laughed aloud, shouted with joy, surrounding nations seemed astonished as they said, Yahweh has done great things for you, and truly great things he has done. Our hearts with joy are full. Yahweh, restore us once again, like sudden Negev rains. With joy a harvest may they reap, who sow in tears and pain. May he who weeps in times of drought, bearing his bag of seed, with sheaves of grain and shouts of joy, return again indeed.